Okay, the time being 6:30, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the traditional territory acknowledgement, followed by a moment of silence. Council, the Township of Red Rock hereby acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Robinson Superior Treaty and that the land we gather on is home to the Red Rock Indian Band, Anishinaabe, and Métis people. The next item is the Ontario Public Library Week proclamation. Whereas the public library offers access to information, and whereas the public library supports personal growth, economic renewal, and quality of life. And whereas we recognize that the board and staff at the Red Rock Public Library provide a vital service to our community. Therefore, I, Darkis Robinson, Mayor of the Township of Red Rock, hereby proclaim October 20th to the 26th, 2024 to be Ontario Public Library Week. And I encourage every person to use the public library this week and throughout the year. Administration advises that there is an addition to the agenda under the Community Development Officer's Report relating to a letter of recommendation from TBT Engineering. Do any members of council wish to make any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Brand, Councillor No. All in favor? Motion's carried. Are there any declarations of interest to disclose? Okay, seeing none. Next item on the agenda is the closed session portion of the meeting. May I have a mover and seconder for to go into closed session under the authorities as printed in the agenda? Councillor Smith, Councillor Muir, all in favor? Motion's carried. Time being 6:32. So rising from closed session, council approved the closed session minutes from the October 7th, 2024 council meeting. Council discussed legal matters in closed session. Okay, tonight we have Peter Whitby from BMI Group here to discuss the bridge options and rail reconnection to the mill site. Welcome, Peter. So all council does have the package that in the report. So if you want to speak to it.
Hello, everybody. Good to see so many friendly faces. Yeah, as everybody knows, the BMI Group, we are working on the redevelopment of the mill site, which occupies a substantial amount of real estate in the community. And one of our main goals is to spur economic development, and that entails the redevelopment of the mill site and ultimately the reconnection of rail to the property from the CP main line. Historically, the mill site was connected both to CP and CN. Obviously, CN was pulled up about a decade ago along the North Shore, and so that will never happen again. In addition, the lands on the east side were given from BMI back to the township, which is now passed over to Bruno's group, where the bridge that you see currently, the current rail bridge, obviously that rail bridge is rotten, wouldn't be of use anyways. CN doesn't exist, and that property is privately held by Bruno's. So I'm here today to discuss an engineering study we had done, looking at various options of connecting the rail back to the mill site. Because it is a priority for our company. We are working with the Red Rock Indian Band and looking to redevelop the whole site. So we need to engage with engineers and figure out how to do this. In addition, the community is looking at the vehicle bridge. We know that it's at the end of its life. My understanding is that it's greater than 75 years. The footings are rotting. The community is invested to extend that life, but ultimately we know we need a new bridge into the community. So why would we work independently? Why wouldn't we work together to see about doing a vehicle and rail bridge at the same time? And to that effect, I hired JML Engineering to do our study and look at this. And this is the same company out of Thunder Bay that has worked for the township. Specifically, that's Michael Edmonds, who's the engineer. He gave his regrets that he couldn't attend today, but he has expressed that if anybody from the township wants to meet with him, council, leadership, he's happy to do so. So I wanted to speak to that report today. I see that we're not putting it up, but ultimately there's a few things to discuss in that report, which we'll make public so everybody can see. There are 6 options on different possibilities of connecting, of where to locate a bridge. And ultimately, I would state that both the BMI group and Michael Edmonds from JML, our preference, I believe it's option E. We do not want this rail reconnection going through the community, going through some of our neighbors' homes. And I can speak to that. So I just want to be very, very clear about that. I think, sure, yeah. Yeah. Yes, E. Let me just pull it up. Oh, double-sided, okay. Yes, so if it's, you go to the second last page, option E, there's a couple things that we really like about this. So, you know, in an ideal world, we would do both the rail bridge and the vehicle bridge at the same time. We would use the same contractor. That would allow us to save money. But additionally, it would allow us to keep the existing vehicle bridge open for the community to drive in and out whilst the new bridges are made, which would save us all from going to the Bailey Bridge, which would be a huge win. Importantly, it gets the rail on the other side of the vehicle bridge, close to where the current one is, away from our neighbors in the community, which is a huge win. It also puts the rail crossing on Red Rock Highway, close to the current rail crossing. That makes a lot of sense. Additionally, it straightens out the highway coming in. You get rid of that, you know, that big curve coming in. Also makes a lot of sense. And I will state that this is possible because our company acquired approximately 30 acres of land from Mr. Tedesco, and we would be willing to work with the township there. It just makes a lot of sense. So, you know, there are 6 options here. I believe options A and B are impossible because of recent land sales. And also there was a fuel station. This would be a nightmare for development. But I think options C, D, and E are worth your time and looking at. I will address perhaps the elephant in the room, which is option F, which is the number 6, the last page. This is the traditional CP right-of-way that exists in the township plan. This has probably been here before any homes were built. And that's how CP traditionally connected to the mill site. It is not, it is our 6th priority on this list. However, you know, it should be listed here because it does exist. It would cross 2 streets. It would cross White Boulevard and Baker Road to get to the right of way. This is not what we want, but I think in full transparency, it should be here. I'm going to direct everyone's attention back to what I think is an important page and then ask from council to direct Mark and his team. And that is where it says, where basically it outlines the property owners. I apologize, it's not labeled. It's would have been green. It's property lines and infrastructure -1. You can see Bruno's property in the top right corner, BMI, and kind of in the middle there. Everyone found this? So in order for some of these, I think, desirable options here to work, there's a small piece of land owned by the township, and there are 3 pieces of parcels indicated that are CN land. This would be directing Mark and his team to speak with CN about those pieces because they would be needed. I know obviously we had a lot of success there in the past, but I think that is one of the key items to explore here. So I guess an ask to give Mark permission to speak with CN about those small parcels. There's 2 little triangles you can see right by the river. I think that maybe I'll stop talking there. I'm probably rambling. So I'll stop there and take some questions.
Thank you for your presentation. I just want to start off by saying we appreciate the work that you've done on this. This was no costing to the township. So this is fully funded by BMI Group. So I want the public to know that. Also, I like that you provided so many options. We are not deciding here tonight. There's no decision making on which option we're going with. Our goal is to find funding to replace a bridge and to work with your group to get a new bridge and rail into the community and to the mill site. So that's what our goal is. Obviously, we've been advocating for a new bridge for many years, but we just keep on plugging away on that. If anybody has any questions, Councillor Smith.
You did state that everybody was against F as a last resort. I do like hearing that. The other question I do have is, when do you guys want to, like, what is your grand plan for moving forward with this if it did go through? Like, are you guys looking at 5 years, 10 years? What's BMI's approach?
Thank you. Yeah, our goal is to ready state the property so that we can be, prepared for new opportunities that come up. And so that involves restoring infrastructure. So noticeably natural gas, big power, rail, and dock. And so that we're ready. And I actively work on that every day on all of these fronts. But I think our timelines would not, I think 5 to 10 years is too long. I think we're looking more in the 1 to 3 years to be ready stated. So, yeah. And maybe just stick here. And I wanted to answer some things that you had commented on.
So you did state, so 1 to 3 years is what you guys would like to do, knowing that fact that, government never moves that fast. What's your last resort? If, say we can't get funding, we can't get our part in the next 5 to 10 years, what is your contingency plan?
Oh, that's a big one there. I don't know, isn't like if we fail the first time, second time, third time, we'll try a fourth time. I don't know. We'll keep trying. We're pretty persistent and we're determined to be successful. There's out there somewhere, there's lots of capital. So I don't know, we'll be persistent is my answer to that.
Councillor Muir.
Thanks, Peter. I do appreciate being the honest approach with regards to the residential running the train through. Definitely one thing we got to keep in mind when we're looking at the way the town is, it's a beautiful, clean town, right? Putting a railway in out of the way is key, right? So I really appreciate you being open and honest about that. Thanks again for that.
Yeah, no worries. It is a short line, right? So this short line will connect from the CP to the mill, and these trains will be going very slow. But yeah, if we can limit the crossing of White Boulevard, Baker Boulevard, and get it in its traditional path, that would be a huge win. One more thing a couple things I will state. There is so much engineering that goes into this, the angles of the curbs, legal crossings, following CP rules. So I think as we progress, and both with the vehicle and the rail bridge, having Michael Edmonds here would add another element. So I think that's very important to note. I'm not an engineer, and there's a lot that goes into this report.
Councillor Brand.
Just sort of tagging on to Councillor Smith. So if you're not able to do this in 1 to 3 years because of financial, will you still move forward with your dock option and have that as a way of, kind of closing the gap for us to get money?
Yeah, that's a really good question on the sequencing of the infrastructure. I'm not sure on that. We're really focused on the power. We didn't even have power to the site until last year, but that's our having the power restored is the first priority to be successful. And rail and the port are second and third. But yeah, we'll just keep hammering away. One other thing I just, maybe to address Darkeis's comments, Minister Greg Rickford was in Red Rock in the second week of September, about a month ago. And he is really supportive of this endeavor. I know he's met with Mark and Darkeis both on the vehicle bridge. I mean, that's, we need a new vehicle bridge as well. And so if we can, have the narrative that we are, active in spurring economic development for Red Rock and this region, we can address, or we can access different buckets of capital, right? And certainly the approach I have is this critical mineral infrastructure funding, right? I think that's a really good place for us to receive big capital, because infrastructure for critical minerals is a priority for the federal government and the provincial government.
Thank you, Peter, for saying that. Again, Mark and I do try very hard to get it out there any chance that we get, looking for funding, knowing that we need this bridge in Red Rock, and it only makes sense for the community that we work together on both projects. So thank you for that. Any other questions on this report? Again, I just want to remind people that no decisions are made. This is a engineering report study completed by BMI Group. And it supports our documentation when we apply for funding as well. So I mean, it's a, an added asset to our application. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it has the opportunity for both the company and the township to save costs, both on the consulting piece using the same engineers and contractors, but then ultimately when it gets built too. So we can save taxpayers and our capital as well.
So just clarify, this report is online, right? It was attached to the agenda. Yeah. So I know it wasn't put up here for you to see, but it is out into the domain of Township of Red Rock, plus on the Facebook site, and anybody who's going to watch
Yes.
this discussion tonight.
I guess there might have been some miscommunication there. I was going to share it with council and have that discussion. But yes, it's a part of our council agenda. What I can say is that, I mean, we're working hard together with BMI in a lot of ways. I mean, for example, trying to acquire the land we need. The direction I've had from council right from the start was an industrial tax base in Red Rock is good, and that is the truth. That would be a game changer for the Township of Red Rock. I can say we've had some very good conversations with Minister Rickford. I was speaking with his office again this week. I'm sharing them some information on our bridge. The critical mineral strategy is a good one. I can't tell you we will get a bridge, but I can say we're working hard to get a bridge, and the discussions are very good. So, I mean, as we continue to work, I'll do whatever the direction of council is to look at that. But it's a good partnership. It's a great way to save some money with meeting the same end need that we both need a bridge, and one is a lot cheaper to build than, or combination of one jointly is a lot cheaper to build. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would just say Mark has been awesome on this file. We've went and walked these sites. You'll see A, B, and C. We've met several times on it. So thank you for your support. It's been awesome.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this? Councillor Smith.
In looking at the property lines and infrastructure, you do see the gas and you do see the fiber repeater. And did you say that Michael stated that it'd be no issues putting anything between those and all that?
Yeah, good question. So there's a lot of infrastructure in that area, including a hydro cut. So those towers that ultimately bring power from the Red Rock distribution station to the mill. So there's power, there's gas. Those desired bridges go between the fiber repeater and the Union Gas. Michael has stated that there's ample real estate and that it's quite common for gas lines like Enbridge Gas would be involved here, and there'll be some cost, dealing with the footings, but that is a very normal in all of these. And he can speak to that certainly. But yeah, you're totally right. Lots of infrastructure there.
Great question. Okay, well, thank you, Peter. Thank you for your presentation. Okay, hopefully we'll have good news in early of 2025. Thanks. Okay, moving on. The open session minutes are at the last regular meeting, October 7th, are at items 5.1 in the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the minutes? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to approve the minutes? Sorry. Counselor Meir, Counselor Smith. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, we have no resolutions from other municipalities tonight. 6.2, information purposes only regarding the update from the DSAB board. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Nope, seeing none. 6.3, information purposes only relating to the thank you from Live from the Rock. Any members of council have any remarks? Is that rain I hear out there? Awesome. Okay. None?
Mayor Robinson?
Yeah.
Just on this one, not looking for anything other than the request is that council is providing, there's no written resolution, anything, just is the, the direction that I can support the Live from the Rock with a lot of their grants and applications as we go. We usually assist or at least help with letters of recommendation, et cetera, for some of the grants that they apply for. So that's that's simply what it is. I mean, a lot of the further discussion will happen right closer to the event, but that's kind of what they're looking for, I guess, in a roundabout way. Is just a nod of heads that the township's still in favor of supporting and having us work with them for some of their grants.
Yeah, for sure. We will continue to support Live from the Rock in any way that we can. Okay, 6.4, information purposes only relating to the summary of the NOMA September 25th board meeting. Any members of council have any remarks? Seeing none. Information 6.5, information purposes only regarding the 2025 Ontario Volunteer Service Award. Do any members of council have any remarks on that? Seeing none. 6.6, information purpose only regarding a letter to the Ministry of Health regarding critical shortages of paramedics in Northwestern Ontario. Do any members of council have any remarks on this? Seeing none. 6.7, information purposes only regarding the September 18th meeting minutes from the Thunder Bay District Health Unit. Do any members of council have any remarks? Seeing none. 6.8, information purposes regarding the Legion Ladies Auxiliary Christmas Cheer Program. Do any members of council have any remarks on this? I do want to say that I wasn't at the last meeting, but the one before, they brought up the Christmas Cheer Program and how they were able to, because of funding and some outstanding donations from community members and organizations, that they were able to make bigger baskets and give out a lot more. So they are doing quite well with that program and very appreciative of all the support. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve a donation of $250 to the Legion Ladies Auxiliary Christmas Cheer Program? Counselor No. Counselor Muir. All in favor? So obviously I just said 250 because that has been our standard, okay? 6.9, information purposes regarding the Legion Ladies Auxiliary Meat Draw Bonanza. Is there any members of council have any remarks on this item? Seeing none, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve a donation of $250 to the Legion Ladies Auxiliary Meat Draw Bonanza? Counselor No. Counselor Brand. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, 7.1 are the minutes from the Red Rock Public Library Board meeting on September 10th. Do any members of council have any remarks or questions? Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the minutes? Councilor Brand, Councilor Smith. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, 8.1, Community Development Officer. Welcome, Ashley.
Good evening. So in the essence of keeping it brief, trying to, I don't want you guys here any later than you have to be. So just a couple quick highlights, continuing work on the recreation center. We are nearing substantial completion, so we'll be having a site visit we're looking at next week to go over some of the last remaining items of the recreation center. There will be some more activity in the parking lot next week. There's putting the trenching in, as well as the prefab concrete bases for the light standards that are going in the parking lot to increase lighting for safety in the parking lot. So we'll be presenting a site map and public information of how the Baker Road entrance is going to be impacted next week. But so far, we're just kind of encouraging people to use the Brompton entrance if they're able to next week during that work. Cruise ships. We had 3 cruise ships anchored in the bay this year, 2 from Ponons-le-Champlain, the company is based out of France, and 1 Hapag-Lloyd Hanseatic Inspiration. That company is based out of Germany. So a total of 246 passengers came on shore between those 3 ships. That is passengers. That does not include crew, and crew will often come on shore as well. So through our fees that we charge the cruise ship company through security fees and disembarkment fees, that brought in roughly $9,772, including admission into the interpretive center. At this time, that doesn't, so the total impact, which includes sales of any merchandise at the interpretive center, preliminary estimates from Superior Country are around $100,000 of direct economic impact to the region. So between visits to Red Rock, Terrace Bay, Rossport, and Battle Island. So no matter where these ships are coming into the communities, they are using local providers. Superior Country is hoping to do a full presentation cruise ship summary report at a future council meeting. So I'll leave any further details up to them. But that's just kind of it's a pretty big win for Red Rock to have that many people and 3 cruise ships bringing in almost $10,000 into the community. So couldn't have done it without our volunteers. So a huge thank you to our volunteers. Quick update on our Memorial Banner Program. They are in production and should be here in the next week or so. So they will be up in time for Remembrance Day. That has been a concern that's been coming my way, but they're in production. We're waiting on delivery. They will be here for Remembrance Day. Update on the bridge, they'll be doing excavation work around the second week of November that will not impact traffic going across the bridge. But people will see a little bit of activity happening around the second week of November for that. Towards the middle of November, before my next report to council, we will be having some energy audits and building audits going on all of our municipal facilities. So that is part of a funded program through the Green Municipal Fund, where all 6 of our municipal buildings will be going through ASHRAM Level 2 building assessments and energy audits to look at how we can improve our energy efficiency and greenhouse gas reduction usage in those facilities. Those are the main highlights. Does anybody have any questions on the main content of my report before we move into the attachments? Fabulous. So you will see in the discussion and attachments portion that the tree assessment has been completed by Rudder Urban Forestry. That has been provided to you. So at my last presentation to council, there was that breakdown of recommendations. I've included it for you again here because it is a key component of their final report. This by no means does it mean that we are moving ahead with each of those recommendations. It's just another deliverable from what they were hired to do. So you will see in their report that they've broken down the main areas that are identified, residential, waterfront, each of the kind of community green space areas such as the Cenotaph, the Stuart Crutchfield Park, the Red Rock Inn/Church Park. So those have all been identified, as well as the overall distribution of species that we have, along with recommendations on should the township wish to plant new trees, recommended species. There is a timeline that looks about 10 years out. We are anticipating loss of some of our larger trees just due to their age and structural stability. So with some of those trees coming down, looking at how we can be proactive in planting other trees in the meantime to maintain our canopy along the boulevard especially. So that's basically just, it's a document for the township to move forward on for your information purposes. And at any time we can kind of pick and choose items out of that report that we would like to move forward with at any time.
Thank you. Yep, Councilor Mayor.
Yeah, so definitely this is a little bit of an eye opener, this one. So it's the Emerald Ash. Like, I don't know, it sounds like they're gonna have a hard time, those trees, over the next little while once that board gets here. I definitely fully support us really looking at this. I know the budget's done now, but I think we really have to look at this because, I mean, that's one of the nice things about this town. You drive up the streets and you see the trees, right? And the reality of the situation is you can see some of them are going to go. So I definitely think we should kind of prioritize this and look at how we can start doing some replacements and take this very seriously. And start planning for capital for this replacement of trees, fundraising, doing whatever we have to do. Because I think when it boils down to it, we just planted a few trees over in front of the high school. Those trees are gonna be ginormous, but they're really small right now. So I think maybe looking at getting some trees planted sooner than later. I definitely think I'm in full support of looking in and contributing however I could possibly can. So yeah, just let me know.
So one thing to take into consideration for budgetary purposes later on with this report is whether or not the township wants to invest in the ash and the elm trees, which have been identified as being prone to disease. And those numbers are identified in the report of what that would look like on an annual basis or semi-annual basis to treat those trees, or whether or not it's more economically feasible for the township to remove them and plant other species that would be more suitable to our area and less prone to disease. So that's just kind of more future planning. And in other communities, they have, which has also been mentioned in the report, is partnerships with community members where the municipality and a local resident do a cost share on planting a more mature tree, which depending on the species could be about a $1,500 tree. So it's training our residents on how to maintain the trees in front of their own yards, in their properties, so that they don't end up being a risk to power lines, over roads, over sidewalks, over driveways. And it's education can be a great tool that goes a long way and saves people money in the long run. So that's something else to keep in mind. There's a lot of planning, a lot of thinking, especially since the majority of the trees along the boardwalk here are either elm or ash, which it's a very popular area, but it's also very exposed. So planting the right kinds of trees along that area is going to be important. Any other questions and comments on that one? Did you want to do the resolutions at the end? Okay. So the second point up for discussion is the water treatment plant electrical service remediation. So this is the water treatment plant generator building. So we did put the project out to tender. We received one bid from Overall Electric. As the letter of recommendation from TBT Engineering states that it is significantly higher than their initial cost estimate. A couple of those reasons from TBT's point of view come from lack of interest, underestimating the market conditions, underestimating the amount of labor required to complete the project. It is a little bit harder to tell what where the market is actually sitting, because there's nothing really to compare it to. Similarly, with one of our last projects that we put out to tender, may not have been an opportune time to tender it. But we do risk with this project waiting any longer if we decided to retender it in the spring of ending up with the same price or more. Speaking with other contractors, due to the high demand in the city of Thunder Bay right now in the trades relating to the construction of the new jail, there's almost a shortage of tradespeople available, and those that are interested they're increasing their prices. So that's something that we're seeing across the board, across the region. So you'll see the full recommendations. There is no doubt in the mind of the engineer that this company is qualified to do the work. They have no doubts regarding schedule, the ability and the quality of the work to be completed. So we have engaged in initial negotiations with Overall Electric to use this as an upset limit. So there is the possibility that they could come in under the 97,455. So we're doing a time and materials basis, which they will be billing. We're negotiating the specific terms of that, but any overtime will have to be signed off on the township. Their subcontractors, those rates remain the same, but any time and materials completed by Overall Electric will be submitted on a weekly basis and approved by both TBT Engineering and the township.
That's how it works nowadays. So this is very normal. So for anybody that's looking at this, saying that this is very normal in the industry right now, and the due diligence was done. When you go back to low bidder and negotiate, this is how it is. You can guess how much something's going to cost, and you're going to be wrong 100% of the time. That's just how the market is. It's been like this for the last 3-4 years in construction. So good work on this.
Thank you.
Just make sure they have licensed electricians on site. That's all you got to worry about.
Councillor No?
Actually, just for me to confirm. So going with the time and labor, would the total that's given here be the ceiling
Yes.
for sure? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And also just in my letter of recommendation that goes along with TBT Engineering's, this project is funded through our provincial and federal allocations. So this isn't any cost overruns from that $50,000 to the $97,000. We have room for that in our project allocations. So that's not a concern on the funding side of things.
And I think just to highlight to the report, and I think why we're bringing you this recommendation is exactly that. I mean, this is the norm now. So those numbers that you get, those pre-numbers of you know, this could be a $60,000 project. You see how it dwarfs to 97. Some of that is supply of contractors, basically, and a lot related to the amount of work in the city at the moment. The other thing with this one is it's an order from the Electrical Safety Authority. So it's hard to go get an extension based on this, knowing that we're probably looking at the same price. Again, from a funding model, it allows us to spend a 2024 allocation of infrastructure funding. So the recommendation is why, or the reason we're bringing the recommendation in this manner is for those reasons. And again, we have no concern, nor does the engineering company, with the quality of work we'll get, even though there was one bid.
Are there any other questions? Councillor No?
Just one more question, Mark. Just wondering, obviously we pay for the, this report from TBT, and just wondering, would we, I guess in the future, be expecting when we do that, that they will be able to have a better idea in terms of what it should come up to, in terms of what the range should come up to?
Yeah, I think I can take a stab at answering that, and but it's so unpredictable out there right now. They look at it from the perspective of a general look, and that's why we discussed it internally and went back with the negotiations with Overall Electric to say, okay, this is our ceiling. Ideally, we had exactly the same question between us, like, you know, how do we get a better start number, right? Or a more consistent start number. Now, some of that's due to timing, right? I mean, if that goes out at a different time of year, maybe where there's not a lot of work flooding the market. Also, we don't really know what happens between other companies. I mean, I'm not saying anybody inflates a price, but I mean, if you're quite aware of what's going on in the area and there's work. The other thing is we are a remote, you know, we are not situated right in the city. So there's additional costs there. There's also companies that will take a job in the city as opposed to coming here. There's MOB, there's DMOB, there's travel. So yeah, we always do our best to get some of those. And this one was a bit of a shocker, but when you look at it from the way that things are now, and if you put that project off, and I think Councillor Muir alluded to it, I mean, there's nothing saying that doesn't come in 10 or 15% or more higher in 2025 either. So I think it's the recommendation is to let's get it done and let's meet compliance that way. And
Are there any other questions on this part? Councillor Smith?
You did state that this is fully covered. So there's no chance that any spillage will come to, we're 100% sure on that one.
Yes, we are 100% sure. This project has been identified as an OSIF, Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund. It's already in our reporting that we do that we're working on our water treatment plant. It's an identified project, similarly with CCBF. So we put preliminary numbers in of what we're anticipating to spend in a year. We have kind of like a large pool of the overall fund that we have access to, and then there's our annual minimum requirements that we have to spend. So if we go over our annual minimum requirements of what we have to spend, that's okay because the extra money is in there.
if I can just expand on that just a bit, knowing that, because sometimes we understand it, but I want to make sure that it gets, so what we're saying is there's no cost to the tax base itself. OSIF and CCBF funds are allocations that come into the township annually. And so to say that we're spending it on this means we can't spend it on something else, right? So there is an impact to those direct funds, but there's also timeframes on those funds. So for example, if we don't spend that money within a 5-year allotment, for example, we have to basically give that money back, right? So it's different than an application we went out and applied for that covered that. It's an allotment that we have in 2 of our annual allotting funds from the province that that allow us to operate and not operate, sorry, that's the wrong word. They allow us to invest in our capital. So
I also think what it boils down to is that this is an order of the
100%.
ESA and it just better, we need it to get done, right? Yeah. Any other comments or questions on this recommendation? Are we good? All good? Okay. So is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the report? This is Ashley's initial report. Counselor Brand, Counselor No. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the tree canopy assessment and recommendation from Rudder Urban Forestry? Counselor Muir. Counselor Smith. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to authorize the entering into a contract with Overall Electric for the completion of the work as specified in the tender specifications for the project number 2023-623 water treatment plant electrical service remediation as prepared by TBT Engineering with the upset limit in the amount of 97,455 plus HST. Counselor Smith. Counselor Muir, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much, Ashley. Okay. Okay, next item, 6.3 is the third quarterly budget variance report. Right? Oh, report. Oh, see, I crossed it out and I'm like, oh, but I'm missing something. I'm making the meeting go way too fast. Okay, next item, 8.2 report on administrative activities. So Mark's report. Sorry about that.
yeah, no problem. Did you want me to just go through a few? Yeah, I think I'll highlight a couple of things from the summary of activity. I think the meeting with the Ministry of Northern Development and as we continue to work with Minister Rickford's office, they are very interested in Red Rock. So we're working quite closely with them on a lot of options for Red Rock based around critical minerals, based around our industrial site. Again, we want to situate ourselves and to be ready if something comes, and that's what we're working. The good news again is both the province and the federal government are very engaged in and interested in what's happening in Red Rock. So that's a good thing. I believe the MFOA annual conference, I think, was a conference that both Deputy Clerk Samantha Cameron and myself attended this week. The travel and accommodations are provided by MFOA. I believe it was a great learning event for both of us based around procurement, based around budgeting. I think financial investment for communities and a really good session. A lot of the local communities as well as the city of Thunder Bay. So you get a great opportunity to learn from colleagues as well as from the MFOA, which is the Municipal or Finance Officers Association. So that was a very good, I thought a very good session. In the direction, discussion and updates, just again, we're still working or we are working with Rock Tech Lithium to put plans together for that open house. I have a meeting with them tomorrow morning. Quad Council meeting, there's some other direction, but Quad Council meeting again discussed. I sent an email to Council scheduled for Dorian for November 21st, 5 to 7. So I I did share the terms of reference with council, so we can make a decision moving forward on that. It calls for the mayor to sit in on that and or a designate if the mayor is unavailable, and one member of council, as well as one member of administration. So we can discuss that. Hedges, I just wanted to have a discussion with council based on the direction, which again, we are more than happy to do. But I did want to bring a discussion based on something we've looked at internally and discussed in a bit of a change in kind of thought process around the director of operations roles and that. And I wanted to talk to council about the fact that we've looked at it closely. What we'd like to ask is that we give them a trim for this year, based on the fact that if we start ripping them out, we can't really see where we are in a lot of ways. They're so overgrown. We are going to lose a sidewalk, and we are going to lose portions of a road, shoulders of a road. We're pretty convinced on that. So what we'd like to do is, and I've talked with the lead hand on that, we're going to purchase a good set of trimmers for ourselves, so we can at least see what we're up against. If we just go start pulling them, which we can do, that's not a problem, but we will lose a sidewalk. The roots will be completely embedded under there, and more than likely have a bunch of work to do based on that. So, I mean, the positive of it is we get them cleaned up for this year. And maybe we like it, maybe we don't, but we're going to do it internally with our own staff, and we're going to be able to assess exactly what we're going to damage in that process, because they are very overgrown. So that, again, we can, that if council's okay with that direction, I think that's the direction we'd like to go, and we'd get it done this year on that portion. Local government week, it is local government week. As the CAO, I just like to say that, you know, and thank each member of our staff as well as council, because it is sometimes a tough job for all of us. It's a great way to highlight and recognize the staff for what they do every day. And I just want to personally thank each one of you for what we do in the Township of Red Rock every day. And thank you for that. The old vault building demolition update. So this one goes back a bit. It goes to June, but I want you to be assured we have not lost it. There's 5 different companies, I believe, that we were dealing with removal of supplies, electricity, gas. We've had a real struggle with, if there is 4 or 5, and I can't remember the exact number, we've had a real struggle with 1. Apparently they will be here tomorrow. So we will have the building ready, and all of the utilities, from what we hear, will be completely taken care of by tomorrow. So we addressed most of them, all of them right away, including the 1, but we've just been delay. And again, that's, I think, another thing that's common right now. So the plan and the direction was to remove that building, and we're still on target for that. That goes back to June 17th, but we're still working on that. Another one I wanted to highlight briefly, because it's one that came up significantly at our recent conference, and it's one that I know as a board member representing Red Rock on NOMA, it's one that we're tracking from all communities, and it's OPP policing costs and the significant increase that we're all seeing this year. And we're not exempt from that. So if you look at OPP policing costs for the Township of Red Rock in 2025, they're going to be up about $31,170, which represents about 18.5 roughly to 20% of what we paid last year. So I just wanted that to be highlighted for council, because you're going to see a lot of discussion on that from other communities. It's going to be coming from the NOMA board. There's going to be a complete look at it from a holistic point of view. But what's driving a lot of it is the fact that you know, there's inflationary costs, et cetera. There was also a recent contract negotiation between police officers where they were given a significant increase to pay. And it's also retroactive, right? So just so we know, going into some budget discussions, these are the challenges that we deal with internally daily when we're looking at this now and we're saying, wow, at some point now we have to come up. And this is just one example. And there's also other examples that go to the revenue side. So, but just knowing that we're going to pay $32,000 more roughly next year for policing costs in Red Rock. So I just wanted to bring that to your highlight as one of those. I like to do that when you're seeing a significant change, because you will see in a budget where we'll now have to budget for this. So I'm not sure if there's any questions, but that's or if there was an okay on I guess the direction question on the hedges, but I'll take any questions now or
Council Brand?
Just regarding the hedges, I know we had talked about removing them, but I remember, and I'm sure Mayor Robinson remembers growing up, they were always kind of maintained and they did look nice. So perhaps instead of removing them and there be potential damage, can we not just start maintaining them at a different level than what we have been able to? You know, we can trim them down. It takes a couple of years for them to get out of out of sorts, but I just wondered if that might be an easier solution for us rather than potentially having road fixtures and we don't know if they're intertwined with any piping or water or.
Yeah, I think that's where he was going. That's why we'll trim them down and clean it right up and then see how that looks. And then, because they used to be quite short before, right? Yeah, and then a bit off of the sidewalk too, so people could walk freely down there. So I think that is a good way to go for now because.
And apologies if I didn't say that, but I thought I covered that with the fact that we were going to take care of that internally and trim them. And then council, we could have a look at that and as a group and say, okay, this is, if we like it, we like it. And if not, we can then proceed and at least try to save a sidewalk as we remove them. So that's the direction that we're looking for.
Councilor Smith?
Yeah, no, I'm totally fine with that. The reason why I brought it up is more is to, again, just have a sidewalk we can use, because, especially with the ice rink being open now and the rec center opening up and just having people be able to walk up and down there safely without having to, all get an eye poking out or whatever.
No, I think that's a good recommendation for now. And the community engagement, do we know the location or that's what you're going to speak to them tomorrow? Just so we can get that out to the public. Do we know?
So we do know it's at the Legion. We're just looking for some final details. I know just even on logistics, like so that Whitney can help them assist with setting up. But it will be from what I hear today, it is still scheduled and it will be at the Legion. We'll as soon as we get that, we'll put that information out.
Okay, thanks. And Quad Council. So I know a couple of people have put their name forward. Go ahead, Councilor Smith.
I'd just like to hear myself talk sometimes. Yeah, I would like to go as well, but I'm just suggesting, why don't we just do a rotational so that second person will just change each one, so we all have a chance to go and take part and have a experience. Regards, I don't.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up because we do meet, I mean, it's been many years since we've actually had meetings, so I know we're going to try and do quarterly, I believe. Or it might even just be twice a year, so it's not like a huge commitment, but I am thankful that they do try to schedule around my work schedule since I am the only shift worker out of the mayors and Reeves in the area, so I appreciate that. But how does everybody else feel? Like everybody gets to listen in and you go to the different communities, whoever hosts at that time. So is that something we can do, like a rotational?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that is an option. It's just the the terms of reference call for two members to be there, but that doesn't have to be the same two members other than the mayor or designate at that time. But certainly, yeah, we can switch that up at any given time.
You okay? That's, okay. I think that's good.
So you can make a decision as council, whoever, just for the first one coming up in Doreen or the next one, and then we can RSVP that way with whoever's going to attend that one, and then we can just rotate it. Sure.
Okay. I think Councillor Brand had messaged first in that email chain, so maybe she can go first. And then we'll go from there. We'll just go this way.
So I'll leave that to
Easy.
I'll leave that to each of you to then reply to that RSVP email. And then, or I can do it for us if that's easy to do tomorrow, if you want me to do too. Okay, I'll RSVP that then.
Any other questions or comments on his report? Okay. Sure, I don't move along here. Is there a mover and seconder for a motion to receive the report? Councillor Muir. Councillor No. All in favor? Okay, now to the third quarterly report. Budget variance. So this is new. This is something that council has asked administration to provide. So people, the community is aware how our budget, where we are in our budget, how well we're following it, or this type of.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's I mean, first of all, it's a report that's long overdue, but we've got it here. What it does do is it provides that financial snapshot to the community. So we're here to myself and Samantha to answer any questions that council may have based on the budget. It's a document that shows our revenue projections as well as our expense projections. And I will say that what it does show is that we are very close and performing quite well. And we'll field any questions on that.
So does this budget go to the end of December, or is this to what's our cycle?
So September 30th of so this is for the period ending September 30th, right? So what our plan is to bring each quarter to bring a budget variance to council. This is operating, right? So this isn't capital. Our plan is to introduce capital in the new year as well. So you would have two different budget variance reports. But this goes till September 30th. So that's the end of Q3 or anything that's been done till then.
Councillor No.
Wondering for the future, I'm thinking about, this is public, right? And I'm thinking about residents who might be going to view it. I just wondered in the future if we might be able to tally them up, both for on the revenue and the expense side in terms of totals.
We can certainly look at some different options. Again, so our accounting software doesn't automatically generate this report. We had to build it.
Okay.
So there is the ability to make changes. So that's what we're hoping to get some feedback today and some recommendations on what you'd like to see. So yeah.
Councillor Muir.
Yeah, it's a good layout. I was just hoping that just possibly before we start going through it, just the YTD, the year to date, the budget, the variance, just percentage, if you could just explain how the sheet works for people looking at home. So when they're looking at it, they'll know what the variance is and what it means. Just a little brief on, hey, this is what this is. It's like a Coles note version before we start going through the numbers if possible.
Want me to do it, or?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. So ultimately, first page shows all the revenues and it breaks it out into four different columns. Year to date, budget, variance, and percentage. So the year to date is going to give you your numbers up until September 30th, which is our period ending date. The budget column, that would be the budget figures approved by council, passed by council earlier this year. The variance is going to be the difference between your year-to-date and budget numbers at this time, as of September 30th, the period ending date. And then the percentage is just another financial way to show that variance. And then as you follow down below the headline of revenues, you're going to see the different departments. And then it breaks it out exactly how it's laid out within the budget that was presented to council for approval, as well as how it's laid out similar to our audited financial statements, where you'll see general government, protection to persons and property. So we're trying to keep things similar, so it's easy to follow. Second page will be all your expenses. Again, same thing. You have the 4 different columns, breaking it out with your year-to-date numbers, your budgeted numbers, and the variance and percentage. Again, same departments, general government, protection to persons. We can try to show with the 2 comparables on the same page, the revenues and expenditures you're looking for.
Yeah, and maybe I'm missing it. Was hoping to, like I was busy trying to add up the numbers just to see what the overalls are. And I guess my other question was, would you be able to know offhand what those totals are?
Offhand, I don't have them, but we can, yeah, I can certainly work on including those overall figures in the totals, yeah. Just to give you a better idea of where we're at. I know right now, just both Mark and I were looking at those totals as well, as we were going through this today. And right now, like I do see we are under budget. It's looking good. We're looking towards, like we may end with a kind of a surplus. It's looking good right now. But again, we still have 1 quarter to go. See what happens.
So I might say that the numbers were there originally, and we tossed around why, because some of the component when we tie capital into is really going to make a difference on those numbers too, right? So because I mean, you can add those up and that's going to see what your budget number was. So we presented as it's a work in progress. We presented it by department, but our full intention is to total that number at the bottom. What we did leave in there was the percentage because it shows where we are, right? But in saying that, when we budget, a lot of times some of these numbers may include capital. So we didn't want to confuse right off the bat because your budget number may not, that we approved in the budget, may be slightly out from these numbers based on timing of passing the budget, different calculations with Opta, for example. And so we wanted to bring this way. It shows department and it shows the percentage, but our full goal is to bring 2 back and have those numbers included for sure.
Councillor No?
Just one more question is, just wondering if there's anything that the 2 of you might be aware of that we should be aware of that are cautions or things that not to be surprised with that we might know ahead of time?
I don't think there's anything there. I'll let Samantha speak to that if she, I mean, but you will see there's some glaring examples that show that your numbers are, I mean, you're going to see where that variance is either positive or negative, depending on revenue or expenses. But you may see the odd one. And one example might be the Curling Club Lounge, for example, where we invested money in that property to get it ready for lease, right? So, but those numbers will drastically change and correct as the year goes. Another fact based on is a lot of our budget amounts are including projected interest on our reserve funds. Correct?
Yes.
So
that's true.
and so they're in that budget number, but not necessarily in year to date. So I think as we go through each quarter, the message that we're providing, or the story that we're providing, is that this is the budget amount from council. If you go back, that's what you'll see on your, and you'll see where we are year to date. And we'll tweak and move based on some of those things as we budget 2025. Like maybe we don't then include interest until it's collected, right? But it is, and if anything else is, I guess if you looked at another example might be building, CBO planning, right? You look where we budgeted 4,600 on expenses, and we're over at 14,000, right? But if you look at it at revenue, it reflects the other way. That's a good news story, because that means we're selling more building permits. We've got some major projects that are generating that. It also speaks to the fact that we sometimes have to engage a third party to help us with some more complex matters, right? So I'm not sure, Samantha, if you wanted to highlight anything else that might be.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that one. That's a good one. So that is a good news story, because it means we have a lot of building permits coming through town, and we have a lot of planning applications, which is also good for your tax base as well, your assessment. What else I was going to touch on? You do see there's a significant difference in fire and revenue. Again, those are just projected. Clearly, we projected a little high, but each year that's made up of MTO, like potential MTO and M&R calls. So good, again, good news story. We haven't had many. That's great. However, and then as well, reserve fund interest transfers that will happen, which do happen at the end of the year. So you'll see those, a lot of these revenues are low right now, but we still have to do those reserve fund interest charges or transfers internally, and that'll make a difference there. The other thing I was going to mention, as well, you'll see subsidized roads under transportation services in the expenses is extremely low in the third quarter, based on what we budgeted. But upon further review, what makes up that difference right now is our fuel consumption has not yet been expensed and recorded. Our goal is to get those done at least on a quarterly basis. However, we've had some internal transitions, and we're working on new processes with some different roles in place. So you will see that will all be expensed. That will all be included in that fourth quarter report. So that's missing there, as well as and then if you look under environmental services under the sewage treatment plant, right now we're very close to our budgeted figure. So again, upon further review, it looks as though when we did budget our insurance for the new wastewater treatment plant, we came in lower than it actually came in at. So we budgeted 56,000. No, sorry, we budgeted. Right now we're over budget $8,400 right now for insurance. So you will see that will be a little higher too by the fourth quarter. And then as well as the municipal taxes. So once there was an assessed value placed on that new wastewater treatment plant, we did budget $56,000 for municipal taxes for the year. It came in at $160,000. Again, that's just an internal distribution, but that's why you see such a significant difference there. I think that's all everything else I was pretty pleased with.
And that's very common that we'll see that, and we'll carry a bit of that over with our wastewater plant, because I mean, some of it is just that. We've had significant changes to that plant. So, but I don't see where there's anything abnormal in I think we budgeted, we try to budget confidently, but also conservatively, right? We know that there's going to be increases, but I think when we bring this back in 2020, or sorry, for the fourth quarter, which will be that first maybe couple of weeks into January, or first part of January, that maybe the second meeting into January. That's going to be the synopsis of what we are. And then we'll continue to bring you the quarters. We'll introduce the capital portion. This is the financial variance that municipalities provide. And yeah, I don't see where we're tracking quite well.
Are there any comments on this? Councillor Mayor?
Yeah, good work. This is super good. Thank you for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, I was quite happy with how it.
That looks
turned out as well.
fantastic.
We tried to clean it up a lot to simplify it too, like, so it's easily into the department. So, but so noted on things like we'll continue to enhance it and bring it back and we'll continue to work on that. So that's again, a lot of work put into it by Deputy Clerk Samantha Cameron, and it's a really good report.
I will add, it is long overdue, but again, it was building it in the background. So once we got pretty confident with how that the accounting software is built in the background, we're off to a good start, and I'm looking forward to getting the capital variance report prepared next.
Thank you. Great report. Great start anyways. And right, we can only get better at this, right? So the more you work with it, you can realize what we want or what the community wants and what's easy for people to understand. Because basically that's what this is all easy for you guys, but for everybody else, it's, a little bit of mumbo jumbo. So whatever makes it easier for people to understand, like that's our goal. So thank you
Yeah,
very much.
certainly. Yeah. And then that's why we have Samantha here as well, because the background work is there and it's put together there. So if there's ever any questions you see it, let me know, and we'll do our best to answer them for sure.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. Yeah. Okay, next item, 8.4 is report on the municipal leasing policy brought back for approval from the previous meeting. Everyone's had a chance to review it. Are there any other additional questions on it? Mark? Any clarifications? Councillor Mayor?
Yeah, just, I know this is just a policy with regards to the leases. In our leases, do we have clauses in there that allow the municipality a notice period to terminate a lease at our discretion?
Yeah, so I mean, you're exactly correct. This is a policy for you to give to us internally, but yes, all of our leases have document or clauses on both sides, right? So they're done by our legal team. We have a template on our leases, so yes, they're drawn up that way.
No additional comments? Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve the municipal leasing policy for the Township of Red Rock? Councillor Mayor? Councillor Smith? All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, next to item 8.6, a report on the declaration of surplus property relating to the bowling alley lanes from the recreation center upgrades. What? Did I skip it again? Oh. Sorry. 8.5, report on the draft council vacancy policy. We've had time to review it. Any corrections we'd like to see, additions, subtractions? I do have a comment on it, but anybody else? Oh, Councillor Brandt?
So I think I had discussed this before about what my opinion was for filling the vacancy. And I just want to state it again that I feel that when a vacancy does come up, whether it's the first year, second year, I feel that we should still go by the electoral list. When I feel when we come into this, when community members go, they vote, they take the time to vote, and I think they have an expectation that their vote should count for 4 years. We don't have any control over what happens in people's lives. They move or unfortunately they pass. So I would like to see that section C revised personally to just go by the electoral list until we exhaust all that possibility. Then just under submissions, whatever happens up in the above, under submissions, I was wondering if we could have it as a almost like let's just say like a resume type thing. The person puts their name in, how long they've lived here. They tell, give a little history about themselves, what community involvement they have, what their role, what their interest is of coming on council. And then I would like to perhaps see that once all the submissions for elections or this come in, then that's put out to the public in a mail out. So the community members not only know the name, but they see what the background is of that person. So that's my thoughts on that. I'd still like to see us go with the electoral roll.
Any other comments? So my feelings and on section C about just continuing to go with the electoral votes, or the thing is, when somebody submits their name and fills out all the paperwork to be to apply as a councillor to run, they only need to be a Canadian citizen. They need to be 18 years of age and not prohibited under this voting thing. I find it a little bit interesting that it doesn't matter if you have a criminal record. It doesn't matter if you're, anybody can submit their name. So we could have known drug dealers, we could have known pedophiles, we could have known in your community, and they have every right to submit their name and run for council. Now, they were not elected. They didn't get enough votes. So is it by default that they should automatically, because their name is next, that they get picked? So under the Municipal Act, we can, right, we can go through the electoral, pick somebody that way, or we can do the application process, which it's mostly done by all other communities. We have done that one time with past council. We did go with the election because it's never happened before in the community. We did have a member to pass away. That was the direction of mayor and council at that time. So I'm actually not in favor of continuing on with this practice myself, knowing that just because you have the $100 you submit, you can fill out the paperwork and apply, to run to be mayor or a councillor. And the election has gone on, you're not selected. It doesn't mean that your name should stay on that list. You should reapply like everything else. And in your comments about submitting it, putting out in the public and all that, it clearly shows here that they would come to a council meeting, right? Their application could be added into that agenda. Everybody's going to know. So we're just adding more steps. We might as well just run an election, right? If we're doing it that way. So I think we cover the basis with the submissions. They come and make a presentation to council. We're all voting out and open, right? You're not going in camera, all of that. So that's people have time to listen. They can come attend those meetings. They would know that it's to their best interest to be attending these meetings if you're filling a councillor vacancy, right? So that's my feeling on this document right now. But again, that's just my feeling on it. I don't know how everybody else stands. Councillor Mayor.
No, yeah, no, I like the way this document is written. A lot of thought was put into this. Yeah, no, I support this document. I really do. It does get into depth and it does make sense. It's well laid out, C, and then the procedures as well too. So, and it follows municipal regulations. It follows the act with your options. So I believe that this is an excellent document we put together.
Councillor No?
I think I heard, but just to clarify, how would this compare to other municipalities in terms of what they would do to fill a vacancy during the middle of the term? Do we know?
Yeah, we have done some extensive research on that. If you look at C.
Yeah.
We had to add that part, so most municipalities do not follow that. So under the Elections Act, you can do one of two things. You can appoint, and that can be done in whatever avenue council wants. That could be an appointment by interview. It could be going to a list. But we had to add that part. We do a lot of searching around, talking to other communities, looking at, there's very few, if I couldn't actually find any that would just go to the list like that. There's pros and cons to it, and you talk to some that do. I mean, a lot of what I heard is, I mean, it may be seen as lack of transparency by choosing that individual and not engaging the public or having that. In my conversations, there was some that say, oh, we just go to the list, but most don't have a policy. What this does is clearly puts a process in place, and it allows that. Allows that to play out. Ultimately, I put this policy together based on the direction of council, and the majority direction was to go to the list. My recommendation would be that C is removed from the policy and it remains a decision of council. The next person on the list always has an opportunity to put their name forward, and then it's council's decision based on that. But what this does is it draws out a complete process of how we're going to do that. So it talks about, each counselor going to the meeting, et cetera, presenting. There's pros and cons to it. I guess when you look at both sides, most councils do not operate that in that manner. They will go to some kind of an interview / appointment process. And the larger ones, lots of times will go to a by-election as well. That's not recommended here, but this was drawn up for that, right? And this doesn't. I mean, it says, I guess, if you're fifth in an election that you didn't win, that council's just going to go there, right? Now, remembering that as council, you were elected, right, to make these decisions, and also you were elected, right? So that, if you lost the election, I mean, does that just give you the ability to come back in? That's a decision of council. But what I can say to answer that question is more communities will operate different ways. Lots don't have policies, but most will go the way the Township of Red Rock went with our most recent edition.
So section C just states that within the year, I mean, very rarely do you have to replace a counselor in the first year. Unfortunately, our neighboring community had a different story, and they went through the application process every time. But again, we all have that is an option available to them and available to us. So it is more palatable to me that it is within the 1 year, right? That you just go with the election results. After that, then it's the application process. So I'm not in favor of the full year, but I mean the full term of council going through those results. But otherwise the policy is good.
You know, having received a little bit of feedback myself, I wonder if there might be perhaps maybe a little bit of middle ground where maybe we could push that 1 year, maybe a little bit longer. I'm not saying suggesting for the full 4 years, but I'm just, in terms of some of the feedback I've received from some of the residents, I think there may be some who might put a little bit more weight into the fact um, that they had a voice in terms of voting people. So that's some of my experiences.
Yeah, and it's designed this way because again, that was the direction of council. I mean, however we do it, I guess is fair and it's transparent this way. If we decided that C was not needed as suggested, then we'd know, okay, and the community and everyone would know that we're going to a process that we've set. If we decide that the first 365 days we go to the list, at least this is clearly defined, right? Now what this also states or doesn't state is that if there's two members in that, we continue to go to the list, right? So, but it clearly defines it, and it's however we want to do that. This clearly states that we now have a policy, and if it happens within the first 365 days, we as administration, we're directed to contact that next person on the list. If it's outside of that, then we're directed to engage in this process. So.
Council Brand?
I don't want to be beating a dead horse here, but again, I just feel that this is an area where community members have taken the time, come out. It's the one thing that they can almost kind of control because they've made that vote, and even if somebody gets bumped off and they're the fifth, the people still voted, and that was the numbers that came out. I would, although I would like it to be from the election list for the whole thing, but I would maybe be comfortable going with something similar to what Councillor Nault said after January 1st. Or not, sorry, I would maybe go for the first 2 years that we go from the election year or from the elector list. So changing that to the first 2 years, that I would maybe be comfortable with that, but I really feel that this is the place where our community members get to have a voice, and we're taking that away, basically, I feel, and that's just my opinion. I feel we're not giving the community members the value in the time that they've taken to come out and vote.
Councillor Smith?
I'm fine with how it is. I do believe that the community members got their vote and the 4 people got on. Because who's to say that 5th person, because of how small our town is, only got 30 votes. I think, you know, the majority of the votes were heard, and the 4 people that end up here are what's here. So I'm fine. I don't really think we need to change anything. The end.
Yeah, I'm fine with this document.
So we're okay then to bring this document back, and that's what with as written. So we would go to the list within that first year, right? And beyond that, we would go to the interview or appointment list. And we can bring this back with direction next meeting for approval.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if it gets voted down, it gets voted down, and we can move from there, right?
Yeah, and
Like
all
that's-
we're looking is if it
That's
needs
right.
any changes, and we're hearing no. So we'll bring it back in this manner with a resolution to vote.
Okay, now surplus property. Ooh, relating to the bowling alley lanes from the recreation center upgrades. So would you like to speak to that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, we've obviously they've cut out the old lanes. They're in the facility in a pile. We've used some of them or are using some of them for kind of like a counter shelf that's going to be built as part of the upgrade in the bowling alley. So we've taken kind of what we need as a municipality. I guess lots of times you would just kind of throw something like that away. It's old, I guess, wood, but there's been people reaching out to us for purchase. So we decided to bring to council a resolution that says, okay, we're going to declare with approval of council, declare these chunks or these sections as surplus and list them for sale.
I do know they were pretty sought after right away, right? Like when we were getting pulled, when they were being removed. So I'm sure they're going to sell, but Councillor Brand.
How do you determine a value for this?
Well, that's kind of where we're going to have to look at it from a perspective of sitting down, having a discussion about value, because they're cut into maybe 5 to 6 foot chunks right now. That's going to be the tricky part, but maybe it's kind of an advertise them, take bids. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to perform that as right now, but if they're surplus, we'll put a plan together and we'll try to get the most money we can for them.
Councillor Smith?
When you do that, will you try to make sure that there's multiple listings so that it's not just goes to one person, but it could possibly go to and maybe limit it, so if you do have multiple, you can only buy one. So that they don't try to buy all of them. You know what I mean? Just so that if it is sought after for everybody to, the way everybody gets a chance to have a piece of it. I don't know.
Well, we're looking to get the most money that we can out of this, so. If it goes to one person, they're gonna pay top dollar, I don't know. And then, yeah, Councillor Mayor.
Is it for memorabilia or somebody gonna use it for a project? Because I mean, that's the thing, if it goes back to Councillor Smith's point, people want it for a piece of the memory. That way is the way to go, but if somebody's gonna buy it in bulk and get a full amount to use it for a project and refurbish it, then that's where we'll get more money for that for sure.
Yeah, I think the general thought of most people or the people that have reached out is to use it for a project, similar to what we're doing with the shelving. It's thick maple, right? So, I mean, we can, yeah, I mean, I think we would take the approach of measuring, which we've already kind of went through that process, and putting for sale. We could put a limit to that individual, or I mean, I don't think anybody right now has come to us and said, hey, I want all of it. I think it's more of a individual piece, but I'd have to confirm on that, so we can maybe just like a bidding process like we do on our other, our additional surplus items, right? So.
Okay, Councillor Brand.
So sorry, you said they were 5 to 6 feet long. How wide are they? Are they the width of what the bowling alley was? Okay, and then, so how many pieces would you have?
Roughly about 9 to 13, depending on.
Okay, so could you perhaps bundle them and say, here's four bundles? So, because if I'm doing a project and I can only end up getting one, because that's all I can afford, but I might be able to afford 4 for the same price or a similar price. Like, I'm just wondering if bundling would make it more convenient for somebody purchasing it.
So I think what we're just trying to do here now is just to declare it surplus. Administration will look at the best way to, no, yeah, but I just think we're overthinking, like they'll come up with the best way to sell it. If it's individual pieces, if it's packs of two, whatever it is like.
Well, really, yes, exactly. At this point, I mean, it's a project expense, or it's related to the project. Ashley's got pictures of it. She's got it measured. We'll put a process together to sell it. How that is, I mean, it's really a hard one to measure, right? Because if you say you can only buy one, I mean, it's a challenge, but we'll come up with some way. We're looking to do, really, we've got two things here. We're trying to surplus and sell it and make a little bit of money. We're also trying to move it once from our facility, which we want to open on Tuesday. So
I think Cam is interested in it. Okay, is there any other questions on this? Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to declare the following property as surplus? Six, gotta read it all, 6-foot sections of 2-inch thick maple bowling lane and 4 88-inch sections of 2-inch thick maple that are the combination of both lane and approach. Councillor Brand. Councillor Smith. All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, unfinished business. I don't know if there's any update on that. I don't think so. Okay. Next item, bylaw to confirm proceedings of council. Can I have a mover and seconder for motion to pass the bylaw? Councillor Brand, Councillor No. All in favor? Motion's carried. Just a reminder, the next meeting will be November 4th. Meeting is adjourned.